Christian, what's your go-to is Pro Tools, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Pro Tools has stood the test of time, and in fact, it's the standard in audio recording. Um, and the reason that is that because just like other standards of things, standard practices, every DAW, digital audio workstation, lower third maybe, is based off of Pro Tools. How does it match up with Pro Tools, which is considerably the greatest DAW audio workstation of all time? All the specs are there, the capabilities are there. Originally, DigiDesign, the original company before Avid bought it, they created Virtual Instruments in 1983 and they released Pro Tools in 1991. So I'm talking right when they were the leader. And they continue to be the leader. And it's not only just because it's the oldest and it's the first to get to market, but the specs oftentimes are superior to other DAW programs, tons of functionality. You can do everything from recording, mixing in stereo to 7.1 surround sound. You can even edit video in Pro Tools, which people aren't really aware of. But great program. We could talk about that a little bit more later.
Yeah, we'll go into detail, but first let's kick off because that's also we'll get into pricing and all that stuff too. But free software, there are free softwares out there that are available. Over the internet, you can record audio for you. However, they're not always the most reliable. I'd say it's good for a solo podcast that doesn't include guests or really an internet connection. Because you can just do it by yourself. And it's like the P, remember the P stands for personal or professional. If this is the personal podcast, you just want a free software to start out, a good one is Audacity. Audacity is a free option. It's essentially the free version of Adobe Audition, which is one I use. It can record, edit your podcast, record and edit in multi-track, which is also huge. Really the only thing I just dislike about Audacity is just physically how it looks. Or digitally how it looks.
It's the worst.
It's bizarre.
Looks like Windows 98.
It looks like it was made in 98 and they just never updated how it looks.
I mean, do you know what it is about Audacity? It's, we're talking about free programs here.
Yeah.
It's, I believe, don't quote me on it, but I believe it is open source.
That sounds correct.
It is an open source audio program where it has all the, a lot of the functionality of, some of the paid ones, obviously not on the same level of quality, but, you can multi-track, you can record, you can do basic stuff in there.
Yeah.
But it looks horrible. Open source.
Yeah. I'm going to show screenshots.
They're not in it to make money. They don't need to make it, pretty.
Well, it is a great program. Otherwise, yeah, it does look 98. Yeah, see? Here, that's right here. Look at this. It's terrible. But for what it is, it's a great free program. Like if anyone's just trying to get started in podcasting, let's go. Just download Audacity. It works for Windows and Mac. There's essentially no difference on which OS you use it on. But Christian, explain what open source means and what that can mean for, like, I guess, audio editing or DAWs.
So open source essentially is a product. It is a software that the back end of it, the code. I don't know if you guys have ever accidentally clicked something while you're on your internet browser and this whole window of code pops
it's like
open.
You hit F12 and accident, like, damn it.
It's a lot more complicated than that, but essentially what it is, it's the back end coding of the software is embedded into it's all embedded into every software, but you can actually access it. So it basically means any coder, anybody who comes along who wants to upgrade the program, which is probably why it hasn't been upgraded. Maybe it just wasn't of interest to, to people. They can come along, copy that code, put it into their building software. I'm not aware of what those softwares might be. Python, SQL, all these things. But they can expand upon the program and make it better. So what that means is that it's improvable by the public. And if you wanted to reverse engineer it, you could easily go into the open source code, code and update it. But what that means for you as a podcaster doesn't really mean much. Does the program work for you? Does it not? Is there room for improvement? It won't be probably scheduled and regular like if you paid for another program that wasn't open source or was a paid service. So definitely something to keep in mind if you're looking for the latest features. Well, you might have to wait around a little while.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, if it's looking for something for free, and you just need it for yourself, great. Highly suggest it. Now, if you're doing in-person interviews as well. Another great tool is still also Audacity. I'm not sure how it would work. I would need to test this out if I can record on multi-track, how I record on multi-track with Audition. But if you're going to record on multi-track and spend extra money on the equipment, you might as well spend extra money and get an Adobe Audition or Pro Tools or even a GarageBand. Yeah, free software, super useful if it's a personal podcast, solo podcast, or even something that's in person. But once you go past that, you might as well pay something.